Today on New England Living, learn to love your roots as we visit a unique plant shop in Norwood for a one-on-one lesson in plant care with a local entrepreneur and botanical expert. Plus, we visit an internationally renowned organ building company with local roots on the North Shore. And we'll learn the art of building the perfect charcuterie board for any occasion. It all starts right now on New England Living. New England is full of adventure. I can't believe you guys are letting me do this.
Up and away.
Look at that. Oh, you just did your first takeoff.
Join me as we discover the people and places that make us so unique.
This is it. You can't find it anywhere else in North America.
I mean, does it get any better than this? Love the place you call home with New England Living. Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. First up, we're heading to Norwood to visit one of New England's first Black-owned plant shops. Quante Turner is the founder and owner of Emerald City Plant Shop. I already feel so calm being inside this store. Walk us through what we can find here.
So I specialize in indoor houseplants. Occasionally we'll have florals and perennials, but really paying homage to the tropical giants of the jungle. And I particularly love big plants. We have the shop set up so that the lower light plants are towards the back, and then towards the front is all the ones that want all the light, might be a little bit more temperamental in their care.
How are you matching specific plants to the people walking in here?
So I call it a matchmaking service because that's what it is. It's just a series of asking questions, asking about their actual physical environment, what their light is like. Is it really dry in the winter? But more importantly, like, what is your lifestyle? Do you travel a lot? That would indicate plants that definitely want to be left alone versus someone that wants to tend to them, that wants to prune them. From there, we kind of direct them to like the super low caring plants like the snake plant, or if they want to really love a plant and water it very often, maybe an alocasia, maybe a fern might be more appropriate for them. My whole goal in opening up the shop is to really teach people about their plants and how to care for them. We're open whether you just want to come and sit out amongst the plants or you're in the market of getting into plant parenthood. We really want to be able to kind of make that plant life accessible for everyone. This is where we keep beginning plant parent journey plants. So these are the ones that don't want a lot of water, they don't need a lot of light. A lot of people love air plants. Air plants are awesome because they don't need soil and you can put them anywhere, but they like lots of humidity.
Where did your love of plants start?
It started with my Nana. My Nana always had tons of plants in her house growing up. I was a college admissions traveler, so I didn't really have time or space to be able to take care of anything living. So when I stopped traveling, my Nana gave me a clipping of her pothos and her spider plant, and it kind of grew out of control from there.
I see some plants here that say not for sale. Is that because you've gotten a little too attached to them?
Yes, and that is something I'm working on, is not getting too attached to the plants. The ones that are not for sale typically will have a name, like Bruce Leroy, our night blooming series cactus in the window. There are store pets and they're here to give babies. This is a clipping from Vivian, our variegated pothos, and so we'll be rooting her and selling it. And so that's where a lot of our bigger plants, our store pets, come in.
There's a wall that says, leave one, take one.
Yes, so we have a community propagation wall because we want plant ownership to be accessible to everyone. So if you have a clipping of a plant at home, you can come drop it off at the wall for someone that might not be able to buy a plant. And so it's a good way to kind of get into plant parenthood without necessarily spending a lot of money and really making it accessible for everyone.
What is the number one mistake you see plant owners making?
Overwatering your plants. That's the number one mistake. When they're inside, they don't need as much water because they're not using as much of their energy. There's not enough sun. So when in doubt, underwater them because you can always add more water in the pot. But once the water is in, you can't take it out, and that's when root rot sets in. So it's better to wait till your plants fully dry out. So this is our pets friendly corner. Even if they're not in this section, they have this little pet safe sticker on there. I always look for tons of new growth. So this is a new growth coming in right here. This is a new growth coming in. As long as your new growth is coming in, you're doing okay.
And for those who really want to go green, customers can rent out this botanical oasis for upcoming events.
I love taking care of plants. I know not everyone wants to take care of plants, even if you love the greenery. So I wanted to be able to have a green space that people can feel at home without necessarily needing to take care of all of that. So if you wanted to be in a space surrounded by plants for your baby shower, for a party, for a showing, a screening, what have you, you can do that without having to take care of all these babies.
Not only are you renting out this space, but you rent out plants. How does that work?
If you have an event that you want some greenery at, but you don't necessarily want to then be in charge of a 6-foot tall plant that you have no idea how to care for, you can rent them out. So we rent plants to stage designers that are putting on events. You can just rent them, have them look beautiful, and then bring them back to us so we can continue to care for them.
You're opening up a shop. It's a big risk. To see it paying off in the form of people really enjoying this space, what has that been like for you?
It's been nothing short of amazing, and it's been so rewarding to pass along what I love and all the knowledge that I know about plants and just be able to really give that to people to start their own journeys. The best part of it all is when I've talked to someone who's been struggling with a plant, them being able to turn it around, just like that pure excitement. Like, you can't tell anybody anything who has brought a plant back from the brink of death. Like, you're like walking on cloud 9.
A big part of your business is supporting Black entrepreneurs in the area. How are you doing that?
It is so important to me to support the people that have helped me get to where I am, because without them, I wouldn't have the shop. It just made sense to extend my shelves to the same people that I've been working with for the last couple of years. We have candles, earrings, you name it here, and they're all from local makers and women of color. I had a friend come in with her daughter. She was about 5 years old, and I'll never forget, her big eyes were so big looking around. She was like, "This is your shop? I want to be like you when I grow up." It moved me to tears because I was like, I never had someone that I could see when I was young in a spot that I would like to be in. So it's been really awesome to be that representation that I feel like so many little girls need.
Coming up after the break, a local organ builder on the North Shore handcrafting musical works of art for some of the most famous venues in the world. When New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm Rachel Holt. Up next, we're visiting C.B. Fisk in Gloucester to learn about the centuries-old craft of organ making with longtime employee turned company president, Michael Kraft. My first thought in being here is, I can't believe this is all happening in Gloucester. How long has this shop been here for?
Well, the company was founded in 1961 by Charles Fisk. He was a pioneer in American organ building in this century. He was really captivated by studying these older instruments, and they were just sounds that were not familiar to most Americans.
What is the process like of making a typical pipe organ?
In this roughly 20,000 square feet, there's a drafting room where all the CAD design is done. There are voicing rooms where the pipes, once they're made, are manipulated and made to speak and make beautiful sounds. The larger part of the shop is a wood shop where all the wood casework and internal parts are made. We do fabricate our own pipes, and when I say that, we also melt and alloy our own metal, usually lead and tin, and then it's poured into a box and laid out in a thin sheet on a granite table. You'll find this nowhere in any other industry at this point in time. It's a very ancient part of organ building. One of the first things we do after we sign a contract is build a scale model. And if you place your chin at floor level in the model. It puts your eyes roughly where a 6-foot person's eyes would be. So you can really feel like you're in the room, and you can really sense not just the organ, but how it relates to the room.
I think what is really standing out to me is how much time goes into this. In a given year, how many pipe organs are coming out of the shop?
From the time we talk to a potential client, it could be decades before the project is ever realized. Historically, we build 2 organs a year, and we've always hovered around 20 or 25 employees.
One of those employees is Tim McEwen, a native Australian and one of a handful of organ builders from across the world who have come to Gloucester to practice this unique craft. What does it take to be a successful organ builder?
I think you have to have a passion, a definite passion for creating something that's unique, something that you know is going to last for generations, and even more importantly is going to inspire people to just fall in love with the instrument, because it makes some of the most beautiful sounds in the world. I mean, it's very much like the human voice. It's like a chorus, the most wonderful chorus you've ever heard.
What goes into a typical pipe organ?
So a pipe organ works using basically 3 things. Wind to make the pipe sound, but to get the wind there you also need the action. And that's what happens from the keyboard that you play, which then lets the wind into the pipes to make the sound. We have people that are making the bellows, which if you think of like a forge, it's the same thing, you're creating wind under pressure. We have the pipe shops, and here we have 2 pipe shops because some pipes are made out of wood and some pipes are made out of metal. And then we have the key action, which is being made here. We build purely mechanical action organs, which means when you press a key, it goes through all these linkages, and that will open the palate in the chest. The great thing about that with mechanical action is that you have complete control over how fast or slow the palate opens or shuts. And you can see this here, I'm just making these keys, it pivots. So when a player presses the key here, the opposing action, you can see. And there'll be all linkages that then go up to the palate.
We spend an incredible amount of time voicing on site once the organ is delivered, because how it interacts with the acoustic, whether it's a large cathedral in a very reverberant church, or a little practice organ inside a carpeted studio-like room, it really has a tremendous effect on the sound of the organ.
Your organs can be found worldwide. What are some of those locations we can see your instruments?
Well, we build in churches all around the country, quite a few outside the country in Asia, one in Switzerland at the Cathedral of Lausanne. Some of the symphony halls we build in are in Dallas and Seattle, Yokohama, Japan. Quite a few universities, and probably one of the more well-known organs in this area is a beautiful space at Memorial Church at Harvard University.
This is obviously such a labor of love. What makes you so proud to work here?
It's the people, but it's also the legacy of who C.B. Fisk was. He wanted to recreate something that we hadn't heard before, and he's the grandfather of that style of organ building here in the US. But C.B. Fisk, as it is now, still has that same passion and craftsmanship. It's nice to be part of a group of people who feel the same way. We have the same end result, that we want to create something beautiful, and that will inspire people for many, many generations to come.
Coming up next, part meat, part cheese, and completely delicious, we're heading into the test kitchen to learn how to make the ultimate charcuterie board when New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to New England Living. Up next, a self-proclaimed foodie and one of Boston's most celebrated entrepreneurs teaches us the art of styling a board. We're here at the Clark Sub-Zero and Wolf showroom, and I am joined by Mo Misra of Boards by Mo. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I am super excited about this one. We are making a delicious charcuterie board today, and you're going to teach us how to do it. First, I want to talk about your business, because you started this as a side hustle back in May 2020, and you grew it into a full-time business. How did you go about that?
Yeah, this has been so much fun. So I actually started this in May of 2020 by delivering these little snack boxes for free to medical staff. Everyone was really overworked, so just felt like something nice to do. And from there, it just unexpectedly grew into such an awesome business. We do a lot of weddings, catering events, and I also have a business course where I teach other entrepreneurs how to start their own business. It's been a journey.
And you're going to teach us how to make a yummy cheese board. First step, what's a good board without a good glass of wine, right? This is a Petite Syrah from Stag's Leap Winery. It dates back to 1872. It's one of the oldest wineries in America. I know it's going to pair really well with what you're about to make, so where do we start?
Okay, so in my opinion, there are 3 really important steps to making the perfect cheese board. The first is variety. So you want a variety of different cheeses, a variety of different meats, so we'll talk about what those are. The second one is adding a little dimension. So I have my cheese board here, but I also have a few bowls, and then I have one cheese that I'm actually keeping in the jar to add a little height to the board. And then the last thing is adding a little bit of your own personality and flair. So what we're gonna start with today is the actual cheeses. So we have 4 different styles of cheeses here. The first one is Manchego. This is going to be a semi-firm cheese, and we're actually gonna do a really fun styling with this one. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna alternate each of the little wedges, and we're gonna create like a little zigzag pattern.
Super easy.
So
but that
easy.
makes it look a lot fancier, right?
Like, already.
Wow.
Look, there's your cheese board.
I'm impressed already.
So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with our Gouda. So this is a smoked Gouda, so it's gonna add a little bit of a different flavor. And I actually just cubed this up to make it really easy for like you or your guests or anyone to just grab. And we're just gonna set that on the other side here.
I imagine the hardest part is not eating as you're working, right?
I know. There's a reason it's called a grazing table or a grazing board, because it's really easy to pick off of it. And then the next thing, so we already have one cheese on the board here, and this is a chevu. It's a marinated goat cheese. Because there's olive oil in this, I'm just gonna leave it there, and it's really easy to like scoop and spread on a cracker, and then you can use the olive oil for like a baguette or a crostini afterwards, which is really good. And then we're gonna go into another really like soft cheese. You can see like this looks so creamy when you're looking at it. So this is a soft ripened brie. And for softer cheeses, you can actually just leave this on the board as is. It's easy to slice, it's easy to cut, so they're not gonna be worried too much about like a knife.
As far as hosting do's or don'ts, what's your #1 tip?
You're leading me right into it, which is don't leave a big hunk of cheese like this, like a hard cheese on your board. So my tip is always to go ahead and slice the cheeses into like bite-sized pieces so your guests can just grab and go.
And as far as portions, what are you looking for when you're putting this all on the board?
You know, it kind of depends on the size of your board and how many people you're serving. Your like typical portion size is 2 ounces of cheese and 1 ounce of meat per person. But you also don't want to overcrowd it because we have so many other things that we're adding, right? We have all our cheese on the board, and now we're gonna go in with our meat. We have 2 different styles of meat here. We have a smoked prosciutto, which is absolutely delicious. When you have a really thinly sliced charcuterie piece like this, you don't have to get too crazy. You can just do like a little fold situation and then tuck it in, and then it looks really pretty. This charcuterie with like a bite of brie and a sip of that wine was probably gonna be so delicious.
You're a really fun follow on Instagram because you post pictures of all your beautiful creations. And something that you do that I really like is you change up the boards depending on the holidays. So what are some tricks you have for us there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that you can do is get seasonal ingredients. So like when figs are in season or peaches are in season, you can totally add those to the board and it automatically just turns it into a seasonal or holiday style board. The other thing you can do with things like soft cheeses is you can do little cutouts. Sometimes in the winter I'll do a snowflake, and Valentine's Day I'll do a heart or something just to add a little festivity to the board. It's those little things that kind of take it a long way.
And what are you doing here?
So now I am making a little salami
Look at that.
River chain,
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call it, but this is just another way, instead of just piling all of the meat on the board, you can just fold it up again, making it really easy for your guests to grab, and then you can just tuck it in somewhere. Okay, so then we're gonna add the last of our salami, and you know, now that we have meat on this board, this is officially a charcuterie board instead of a cheese board.
And what I'm loving about this is the variety, the colors, it's looking really fun, and I can't believe that I haven't done this yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so while you do that, I'm gonna finish off this board by adding some of these almonds, I'm gonna add some walnuts, I'm gonna add some apricots, and all this is doing, one, it gives you great pairing options, but also it really fills up the board to give it that elevated look.
This is looking amazing. We have our board, we have our wine, we're ready for the party. I'm gonna get back into this.
Yep, absolutely.
Coming up after the break, a one-of-a-kind flower farm bursting with color. Welcome back to the show. It's time now to go around New England, Southern New England to be exact, brought to you by your local Chevy dealers. Wicked Tulips Flower Farm is a family-run business with 3 different locations in the region: Preston, Connecticut, Exeter, Rhode Island, and Johnston, Rhode Island, and is one of the biggest tulip farms in all of New England. Wicked Tulips has, well, a wicked lot of tulips, 1.5 million of them in total, in over 100 different varieties. For a few weeks each spring, they host the self-proclaimed largest pick-your-own tulip event in New England, where they open their farms to guests wanting to build a beautiful bouquet or in search of the perfect photo op. Locals and tourists alike from around the world flock each year to these farms to marvel at this incredible display of color. And although the window to visit is short, it's oh so worth it. Each adult ticket comes with the opportunity to choose 10 stems and free self-serve wrapping stations. You Pick farm hours are by appointment only, so fields are never overcrowded, and there are always plenty of tulips in bloom for everyone. Thank you for joining us today on New England Living. For more in the show or anything you've seen here today, visit us at newenglandliving.tv and follow us on social media. I'm Rachel Holt. See you next time on New England Living.